So you maybe noticed that we've got new swag. This came out of what our moderator calls roses and thorns moment of our board meetings, to which the chair of cultural arts, Molly Blackburn, said, you know, Grace is doing such beautiful and cool things on the chancel, and our clergy have these beautiful custom paraments, and the choir, well, there's so many of them, and they sound so great, and, well, the next thing you know, Gayla Voss, over here, in a conversation said, well, they're not that hard, says Gayla. I mean, basically, I wear a flour sack with a hole cut out of it. And Gayla and Grace and her merry band of sewing and ironing elves created new custom robes and paraments for us. They're reversible. They've got all kinds of seasons. They're in the style of Frank Lloyd Wright and all that stuff. And it took, I don't know how many helpers you had, but everybody came together. Somebody said, well, I can't sew, but I can iron. And Gayla said, I can use you. And there were dyers and stampers, and these new robes came together because, well, we need each other. We need each other. And so thank you to Gayla and to Grace and to everybody else who helped to dye and stamp and iron and stitch and all the things. We need each other. Now, there are clergy friends of mine all over the country today who have been twitching, and they're not sure why that is. And my poor sweet husband, love his heart, thinks I've lost my mind in a new way. You see, you don't start Advent. You don't have, and poor George over here and Sandra, our clergy, we've got like a dozen retired clergy folks around, and they're thinking, what in the world has she done leading with the Christmas story? Well, in my defense, we're using Matthew, and we won't use Luke, George, until Christmas Eve, so I'm not double dipping, so I think I'm doing okay, right? You see, I am a strict traditionalist. For most of my ministry, I have been a theological snob when it comes to Advent. I am deeply conservative in my belief that Advent matters, and the structure to which Advent holds us to matters. And so we sang Away in a Manger, which you're not supposed to sing this early in the season. I am hated clergy person in every congregation I've ever served, because I really dislike singing Away in a Manger and other Christmas carols this early in December. I think it makes baby Jesus cry. You should not sing Christmas carols until the 24th day of December. And then on the 25th day of Christmas, the 12 days of Christmas may commence, not the 12 days leading up to the 25th. However, not this year. This year, I got out every nativity and every baby Jesus I could find in this church. To which on Friday afternoon, Grace Cox Johnson, who makes all of our stuff look beautiful, here says to me, I know you're not going to put that baby Jesus in that manger. To which I said, oh yeah, I am. I thought Grace was going to have just a fit and fall on the floor. Her high church sentimentalities just couldn't take it. Well, you see, I've got this song stuck in my head. And it felt a little right that we got a little off at the start of the service because I'm feeling like Lucille Ball these days. Anybody ever seen a movie called Mame that Lucille Ball is in? Yeah, a few of you. Well, we're going to start off Christmas with little Lucille Ball this morning. Do we have that video? Please tell me it works. All this stuff set up for Carol Fest, it's lovely, but it makes a mess for the rest of us. Maybe. There she is.
Okay, now, where is all of last year's tinsel and stuff?
It's all packed away.
Go and get it. Haul out the holly, put up the tree before my spirit falls again. Fill up the stockings, we may be rushing things, but deck the halls again now. For we need a little Christmas right this very minute. Candles in the window, carols at the spinet. Yes, we need a little Christmas.
I see you tapping your feet.
It hasn't snowed a single flurry, but Santa dear, we're in a hurry. So climb down the chimney, turn on the brightest string of lights I've ever seen. Slice up the fruit cake, it's time we hung some tinsel on that evergreen bough. For I've grown a little leaner, grown a little colder, grown a little sadder, grown a little older, and I need a little...
Whoop, there she goes. Down here you couldn't see, but the choir is tapping their feet, and I could see some of you, you're sitting there doing this because you can't not dance when Lucille Ball shows up in church. I'm just saying. As the old song goes, and as my new Christmas angel Lucille Ball says, maybe I'm a little older and maybe I'm a little sadder. I'm certainly a little colder with all this dang November snow. But there's a reason this song's been running through my head, and that several months ago, Mater and I decided to start off the season with the Christmas story. Stay with me. This is Joseph's big moment. Joseph, that is the husband of Mary and earthly father of baby Jesus and all that stuff. This is Joseph's big moment. And Joseph finds himself in an impossible situation. I mean, can you imagine being Joseph? Girlfriend says, Joe, I'm pregnant, but it's okay because it's the Holy Spirit's baby. I wonder if Joe told his friends, and his friends said, Joe, you got to cut this girl loose. Joe's a good dude. Joe doesn't want to stir up too much trouble, and he doesn't want to embarrass this girl because, he kind of likes her, and so he's just going to let her go kind of quiet-like, and no big Facebook announcement or Instagram post. Joe just stays kind of low-key. And then he has this dream. Joseph has this crazy dream that must have seemed utterly ridiculous, and I wonder if he told anybody about it at first. Joe has this dream, and he decides, against all good sense, to say yes. Because Joseph is a dreamer. The realists among us can rationalize all the ways Joseph should get out, but I don't know that I've ever really identified Joseph as being a dreamer. And the only way that Christmas happens is because Joseph is a dreamer, and Joseph says yes to this calling that God has called him into. If Joseph were a realist, Mary might not have ever been on that donkey to a little town of Bethlehem. Over the next several weeks, each week in worship, we're going to look at one of the characters in this Christmas story. In this crazy dream of a Christmas story. We're going to see how we might embody these characteristics. How we might bring a little Christmas right this very minute into every situation where we find ourselves. Because there's a reason that people start listening to that stuff in October. Because they need something. There's something that their soul says they need. And it keeps getting earlier and earlier. And what is that telling us about the state of our soul and what we need? Next week we're going to look at Elizabeth and then Mary. And when we get to Christmas, hopefully we can realize that they needed one another in order to make Christmas happen. And we need one another to help make Christmas happen. Christmas is not just something we celebrate, y'all. Christmas is something we have to be to the world. And I wanted to start with Joe because this unbelievable story that is Christmas only happens because Joe says yes to this dreamerness. Now, some of us are realists, right? And we look down on those dreamer people. And we kind of roll our eyes at them because they're not very practical and they make our life difficult. Well, we need the dreamers. Each of us has a role to play in making Christmas happen. Those of us who are realists might never get past our own dadgum reality shows if it weren't for the dreamers. It's like the song that we sang at the opening and Jake and Audrey discussed briefly. It's a terrible song. And yet we sing it every year. Every church I've ever been in, and you have to sing it on the first Sunday. It's written in the Bible or something somewhere. It's a terrible song. Jake's right. We mourn in lowly exile. We talk about dispersing the gloomy clouds that surround us and death's dark shadows that have encompassed us, and envy and strife and quarrels, please make them cease. I just want you to hold that for a second. Because when I read these verses, I feel like I'm reading the paper. Like today's paper. Or every paper of this week. President's lawyer pleads guilty and the president says that he's lying. That's not a partisan statement. I just don't know what to do with any of it. GM plants closing. Mudslides of places that just got fires out. And Lord of mercy, they had an earthquake in Alaska. In the Northland this week, we found out that our Winsteads is closing. And you know, we went by there yesterday and I didn't even get to say goodbye because the sign's gone. And maybe the best of the bad news is that lettuce will kill you. This is why we are a pie-eating church and not a lettuce-eating church. Nobody ever said no pie killed anybody. this hymn. I keep coming back to this hymn. And it's an older than God kind of hymn. And we don't really know who wrote it. And if you look at the bottom of the hymnal, it'll tell you that it was an ancient hymn, and then one new person started to write a little bit of it, and then another person wrote a couple verses of it. So it's like this collective writers group that made this hymn happen. And I feel like you had the folks, the realists over here, all the folks who write for the New York Times and the Washington Post and all that, they're over here, and they're writing these verses saying everything is horrible. It's terrible. Look at all the things that are horrible and terrible and wrong. And then over here, you got this dreamer. And she says, wait a minute. It's not all really horrible and terrible. We need a chorus to this song. And so over here, we got death's dark shadows and gloomy clouds and all of that. And then over here, you got the dreamer going, rejoice, rejoice. Praise God, Merry Christmas for the dreamers, because they saved us from that being a really, really terrible song. It's a back and forth. It's a call and response. It is this mixed bag of emotion of the sky is falling, Chicken Little, and oh, look, the sun is up. Oh no, it's another zero birthday. I got to see another zero birthday. The realists write the verses, but the dreamers write the chorus. And I'm going to start hanging out with more dreamers. I'm going to start hanging out with the dreamers because I cannot get my head around, well, let me say this differently. I refuse to believe the narrative, doom, 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 gloom, gloom, gloom. That is not the narrative of the gospel of Jesus. That is not the narrative, the crazy, crazy dream that God gives to us during this season. And it's not enough for us just to celebrate Christmas. We have to be and embody Christmas to one another. I originally wrote in my sermon early in the week that Joseph had a choice to make. Joseph could have left or Joseph could have stayed. But I don't know about you, but the dreamers I know, those folks are born that way. They just showed up that way. That's just the way God made them. I don't think they really have a choice. I don't think Joseph really had a choice. I just think he's a dreamer and it's in his nature. And the rest of us need Joseph to help us sing ourselves into the chorus of rejoice. Otherwise, we'd be stuck with those horrible dang verses of gloom and dark and death and shadows. So I'm going to surround myself with dreamers and those crazy people who've been listening to that crazy Christmas station since Halloween. Normally, I don't let them in the house. Maybe they'll help me during this Advent season as I'm working not just to celebrate Christmas, but to be Christmas. And we need those dreamers. We need to see the baby Jesus lying in the manger so that we have some idea of, yeah, we can get there. We can get there. I need those dreamer people to keep pointing me toward the dream that it'll be better, but only if we make it so. Only if we make it so. Only if we say yes to being crazy dreamers that everybody looks down their nose at. And if it's not the church who does that, Lord of mercy, who in the world is going to do it, y'all? I did leave the manger empty over there. You're going to have to fill that yourself. Seems this year that we're going to have to make Christmas happen. We are going to have to drag it kicking and screaming into that manger. But it's going to be up to us to make Christmas happen, one piece of garland, one strand of light, one crazy dream at a time, and maybe even a crazy Christmas angel like Lucille Ball. You know, this whole song comes about because Mame, right? She's this wealthy dame, and she loses everything in the stock market in 1929 crash. And there's only so much of this news that she can stand. There's only so much sadness and gloom that she can put up with. And the week before Thanksgiving, she says to her maid and her butler and her nephew, "Haul out the holly. Put up the stockings before my spirit falls again." And then, you know, dreamers are crazy and people laugh and they think they're ridiculous. And you get about 3 minutes into this song and, well, Jeffrey, will you show them what kind of crazy dreamer Lucille Ball Angel Christmas is? Try it again. It was there earlier, y'all. Well, you can't be angry, Lynn Lucille Ball. Can you do the other one again? You got anything with Lucille Ball? Try her again. Nope, try the other one.
Where's all of last year's tinsel and stuff?
There you go. It worked earlier. Maybe that's a good metaphor for me. You can get all upset about it. You can get all worked up about it. Or you can choose, this actually might be good. You can choose to finish the story yourself. You can choose to sing that song yourself. You can choose to sing that song when Lucille Ball can't seem to get it out. Because we need each other. And there are days when I can't sing that song because I'm not in a place to sing it. And I need you to come along and help me sing it. We need each other. What's going to happen is that the maid becomes the Christmas tree, and then Lucille puts on a hat, and she puts on the Christmas Santa beard, and they dance like dang fools around the empty house because she's lost everything. That's pretty good for Christmas. Oh, if I just dream enough, it'll happen. There they are. I don't even care that there's no sound. Look at her. We need a little Christmas now. And if we aren't going to help God make it so, then I don't know who else will. Let Christmas come. May it be so for us. Amen.